Hello, everyone. I don't know if I'm live or not. I'm going to add my guest to the stage too, and then we are going to check. Uh, this is my first time doing live. I'm just checking because accidentally I put the wrong time on my YouTube account. So I think I may be going live. Why does it say 10 p.m.? I'm unable to change that. So I think I may be going live. I think I am live. Okay, so today we have a very important topic, and one of my guests from UK reached out to me after the Lubna's video, and our topic is Muslim women in UK versus USA, and why is it that Muslims it's actually for both genders. I put women because we both are ladies. So why is it that Muslims in UK seem more sheltered, but Muslims in USA seem more free and more integrated in society, but Muslims in UK seem more isolated and more extreme. So my guest, her name is Samira. She's going to join us, and she grew up in UK.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Samira.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, enjoying a quiet Sunday.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for reaching out. So, can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Of course, I was born and raised in UK, in Manchester to be specific. As a family, we have lived in a few different countries. For example, I spent my toddlerhood in Canada, then
Oh,
my
really? You did? Okay.
in Calgary. I can't remember it. I was a baby. But then we spent a year or two in Mumbai.
Okay.
Then a few years in, where were we? In Leeds, of course. I went to primary school in Leeds, for
Okay.
example. And then, of course, from 1979 to 1983, we lived in New Delhi. My dad had a posting with the United Nations, and
Okay.
my brother and I, we went to a British embassy school. So even though we lived in India, we had a British education. And maybe an interesting fact for your viewers, the student body at the British school was very, very international. So I grew up with people from different backgrounds, different faiths, and that was the first time when I learned about humanity. We moved back to UK in 1983. We
Okay.
moved to London, and London has been home since 1983. But then, of course, I'm pursuing my own career. So now I'm actually living and working in Germany. I arrived here in 2007. I lived
Okay.
in Munich for many years, but now I'm actually in the city of Dresden.
Okay, thank you for the detailed intro. I'm just trying to I'll try to go quickly and see if I can change the
Of
time
course.
of my live because it
Oh
says
dear.
10 p.m.
No worries.
I accidentally did it I don't know why it says 10 p.m. I
Yeah.
did 9, but if I can't. I'll just come back. This is my first live, so we will learn during this process.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Lessons.
Okay, so but yeah, so you said like how long did you stay in Canada? How?
Really, I think for a year. I all
Okay,
I
just one year, and
Yes, I can't remember it.
okay, that's not
I was a
long.
toddler. That's
Okay,
all I know.
okay,
And I hear and my mum tells us a few stories sometimes.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I think my parents were very young, newlyweds at that time.
Okay, I see. Yeah, you must don't remember. I can
Not
understand.
really,
Yeah.
no.
So let's jump to the
Sure.
topic, we were thinking about discussing US and UK Muslims and what's the difference. And actually, my family live in Canada, so I go there a lot, and I do understand like Canadian Muslim culture also, so I can talk about that too. And it's so interesting how it is different from US, but very similar to US too. And I'm going to point out the differences and similarities.
Yes.
And then we are going to talk about 911 and how UK and US Muslims reacted to 911. And then we are going to discuss like what are the solutions and how we can make like improvement or make any good positive changes.
Sure.
So start with US Muslim. First, I'll tell you my impression. I have visited UK only like once 10 years ago. So I'm not that familiar with the culture, but there are some people who have migrated from UK. They grew up in UK and they came here, and they are different.
That's interesting.
I can see a difference. So I have like in Pakistani community, there are some people, some families who migrated like around 97, 98, and their kids who are like my age, they are different than others. I can just definitely see the difference. And then there are people who migrated from back home, Middle East, anywhere, or from Pakistan, India, Muslims. Yeah, so we are going to talk about it, but from UK, my impression is basically more online, and I think online representation is not the correct representation.
Not always accurate.
Yeah, because extreme voices are always the loudest. That's what I've noticed, and they are the most supported on both sides. So either they are very pro-Islam, or I don't think there's anything pro-Islam, either you're Muslim or not. But people who are really, I would say, towards the extreme and anti-Islamic forces, both are the loudest. And I just want to share it with my viewers that you identify as a Muslim, correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes, but it's certainly not extreme.
And yesterday you said like maybe I try to practice. I'm not that good of a Muslim, and I said that make you the best Muslim, like one of the really good Muslim. When you think you are not a good one and you are just striving to be better, that's what makes you a better Muslim. If you think you are the best,
certainly when you said that yesterday, it gave me food for thought. Absolutely. But no, you're absolutely right that extreme voices shout the loudest, and they're the ones who are usually online. So I hope tonight I can bring some nuance to the discussion.
So I've just seen the extreme voices. So I've seen very traditional Muslims, and I've seen a lot of them like really insistent to wear niqab. And I'm pro hijab and niqab, like as long as it's not like it's not affecting school work, or because it can be intimidating. Someone wearing niqab in vest can be intimidating. So I won't say too much, but I've seen Muslims in UK just insistent on their traditional values and not wanting to integrate in community.
That's it.
Isolate themselves. So now you tell me.
Sure. Well, let's begin on the issue of clothing. I always take this view that the religion insists on modest clothing for men and for women. But now maybe this may be just my opinion. I do believe that the Quran itself has sort of has given us the permission to interpret. So this means we can dress according to the culture we live in. And so for example, for me personally, living in the West, I may not wear a mini skirt. When I go swimming, I would prefer a one piece to a two piece. But really, that's it. I think my clothing in day-to-day life, I think it is conservative by Western standards.
Okay, yeah.
And, and I think that's, that's good enough. Now, regarding the hijab and the niqab, maybe something interesting. In the UK, 2 or 3 days ago, an MP from the new party Reform actually asked a question in the Parliament. She asked the Prime Minister Keir Starmer if he would consider banning the burqa. And that has led to a lot of controversy. And the pro-burqa banners are simply saying that, well, quite a few European countries have banned the burqa. And also, though I would have to check this, a few Muslim countries also.
Yeah, I think Tunisia is one of them. I made a video on it too. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's interesting.
but what do you see in like the culture? I hear your viewpoint, but what you see in the culture in UK?
Well,
let's start with dressing. Yeah.
Well, I do feel that things are going backwards rather than forwards. I'll give you one example related to the dress code. When I was 18, a young person in the
And
80s.
I don't want to interrupt, but I'll just say that I'm going to share the psychology behind why it's going backward. But
I would love to know that. Look, in the 80s, in the 90s, even in the 2000s, you barely saw a young woman in a headscarf, let alone a full niqab. You really saw that.
Really?
But now, but now it's really common. And especially if you go to the east of London, the East End, where there is actually a very strong, interestingly enough, Bangladeshi community in that area. And you will see 15, 16-year-olds in full face veil, which is fascinating. And when I was at school, I went, by the way, to a boarding school, and there were maybe a few of us girls from the subcontinent or the Middle East, and none of us actually covered our hair. And even in my own family, something I didn't mention yesterday, my family is a religious family. I have a grandfather who was the chairman of the Hajj committee in India. And so he brought up his sons and daughters very strictly. My mother is an extremely devout Muslim, and my father, towards the end of his life, he became devout. So this is the context I come from. But even then, in spite of all this conservatism, I can only think of 2 female relatives who wear the hijab, generally in my family. And one of those women is not even consistent.
Okay. So you are saying that since 2000, you are seeing more of like...
Yes. Okay. Yes. And it will be interesting to know why, to ask the question, why that's the case.
I can tell you what's my psychological perspective, and then we can figure out why. And I have seen this trend actually, not niqab, but I've seen the hijab trend. And the thing here is that most people don't wear that burqa or that overcoat.
Right.
Most girls who are wearing hijab, they wear it in a way that's beautiful. I really like how young girls, Gen Zs, wear hijab here. So they are fully integrated, and they are really looked up to. The way they are representing Islam is just so inspiring, and they are being looked up to because they are not isolating themselves. They are integrating themselves in the community. So they go by that Islamic modest clothing, and majority do believe that covering your hair is part of modest clothing. So they're outfits will be loose fitted,
Right.
and like their shirt will cover their hips, and it
Yeah.
won't be very manly looking, because all of these are part of a Muslim women clothing. That's
Yes.
if you consider aura. So, and
Right.
it will be though it is Western, they won't be wearing overcoat. If they wear
Right.
it in layers, it will still be Western, and
Sure.
it will still look very trendy, and
Yeah.
then they will cover their head. And they are doing everything. They are going to school, they are working, so they don't look isolated. And I've
Yeah.
tried it one time too, during Ramadan. I
Right.
Last year I thought I'll wear a head covering during
Yes.
Ramadan and see how I feel the reaction. And I was surprised that Americans, they were looking at me with respect.
That is interesting. But here's my question: how did
Mhm.
you feel about it? You know,
I
during
actually, it's we are human, so, and we are very connected. So
yeah.
it we always see that how we are perceived by others. If we
Yes.
are looked down upon, we won't feel good. But the way others look, I was looked up more. Like I got more gazes, and
Yes.
I was wearing hijab.
Yeah.
So I definitely got more gazes. So
Right.
those who say that it's not to get looked at, I didn't see that. So I
No.
got more gazes, but people were looking at me with respect, with
Mm.
admiration in their eyes, because it's a big part of American culture problem that not wearing clothes has gone too far. It's gone
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
far,
I
and
get it.
yeah, modest clothing are coming
Yeah.
back. So, and Muslims are doing it in a way that's inspiring, and
Yeah.
that's great. So they are doing it in a way because they are integrated with the society, and they are
I.
adopting
Yeah.
some cultural
Yeah.
Western cultural things, and
Sure.
not saying no, and not wearing the whole veil
Yes.
thing, because that seemed like different. If you start wearing the
Yeah.
same veil that you are wearing in Saudi Arabia, it's not going to, like, invest. I
No.
don't know, like, why
Yeah.
would you do that? You have to show some integration, because if you are in a country, your loyalty should be with that country.
Oh,
But it
sure.
doesn't mean that you erase your values or
Yes.
religion.
Yeah.
You can preserve your values too. So
Yeah.
let me, sorry, I don't want to take that
Of
much time, because I
course,
want to
no,
give
that's
you
okay.
time to,
It's
but
it's interesting, and in fact, I have a question
Mhm.
that occurred to me when you were telling me this. Do you think that you said that the general, the let's say the white Americans were looking upon you with admiration and respect?
Mhm.
Could this also be because America is a country that respects faith? In Europe, many people now are becoming either agnostic or atheist,
Mhm.
and But my impression of America is that Christianity still has a
Yeah,
significant place
yeah.
in culture.
Very, and
So
yeah, it's very amazing. And actually, I was surprised too how,
sure,
especially Catholics, their
right,
religion is very similar to Islam,
yes,
some values, and there are a lot of conservative. And where
yes,
I live, it's Florida, and it's more conservatives. And
right,
also, culture play a big part. People love to see culture, because Americans don't have any culture. They are very basic.
mm,
They call themselves basic, bland. So they love when they see culture, and that has become part
yes,
of Muslim culture. And I like how Muslim women are showing themselves with that scarf. When you see someone, you just know they are
yeah,
Muslim,
yeah,
without,
oh sure,
yeah, without isolating themselves, or
yes,
without like saying no, I don't belong here.
yeah,
So in America, I've seen American Muslims have taken this position that I'm Muslim, I'm American, and I
yeah,
can be both. But
yeah,
for somehow you can, so let me tell you the psychology of it. And I
sure,
saw it after 911. More
right,
and more people started to wear hijab,
yeah,
a lot more people, and a lot more people become very religious. But still, it didn't go the way it's going in UK right now.
mm-hmm,
So what's happening in UK, we call, there's a specific term for it,
right,
in psychology. It's called reactive identity formation.
okay,
And it happens when a community feel marginalized,
Yeah.
are isolated, they get more connected to their own identity, whether it's
Yeah.
culture or religion, for pride and safety. So I think that may be happening, but I'll give you the mic now. So you.
It could well be,
Mhm.
because again, you mentioned 9/11, and if I remember correctly, right after 9/11 in America, there was still a lot of compassion for Muslims,
Mhm.
and I heard
Oh,
about
yes. Where
mosques
in
being.
UK you are talking about?
No, now this is, I heard about this in America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, a
I'll tell you
compassion.
exactly my experience with
Sure,
that.
sure.
Mhm.
And I would love to know more, but I heard, of course, and I even remember George Bush Senior saying that
Mhm.
Islam is a religion of love and peace, and that the terrorists were not really
Mhm.
Muslims. So
Yeah.
I even remember that.
Yeah.
But going back to Europe and the UK, people are not, only a small minority of native Brits are Christians. Yes, there is a talk now about,
Okay. So you are
how
saying
we
there's
should.
not that much religion there.
There isn't, but
Okay.
some people are talking about how maybe we should go to church more often, and
Okay.
maybe there is, this thing. They look at Muslims, even Hindus, other minorities who tend to be more faithful towards their religion,
Mhm.
and they're now thinking, well, maybe we should do the same. Maybe
Mm.
we should really use the churches we have,
Yeah.
rather than closing them down and selling
Mm.
them to the local Muslims,
Okay.
who
Yeah.
then open a mosque in the area.
Okay.
So there
Yeah.
is this transition going on
Okay.
at the moment.
Mhm.
But regarding, it's nice that you told me that last year, when you sort
Mhm.
of wore the
Yeah.
hijab for a month, you had a lot of positive response.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't think I would do this in the UK myself,
Mm.
because because at this moment, based on what I have heard, and what I see in the news, I follow the news in the UK, so
Mhm.
I'm aware of certain developments.
Mhm.
It is actually hard, to be a Muslim, and also and to show, and any signs of Muslimness, display it publicly,
Mhm.
in when you go out and about.
Okay.
It's
Really? Okay.
unfortunately, it's
Wow.
really, really hard. And
Mm.
and I'm not sure. I think a lot of this is also, and I don't want to digress too much from our topic, but just very quickly as a side note,
Mhm.
in the UK there is a big divide between the people who are politically on the left and those who are on the right. And in the UK, society is becoming very, very polarized, and there
Yeah,
are.
I just want to read a comment. One of the
Sure.
viewers said, and he's Indian. They are
Interesting.
amazed by the culture because not now they get to see it usually at America itself, except daily life, clothing style, and it is very
Yes.
true because culture is very accepted in America.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's highly accepted, all kinds of
Right.
culture, it's looked up upon, and people make fun, Americans make fun of themselves for being basic, bland, and not having culture. So it's
Right.
just like a um, inside joke, American inside joke, and
Sure.
every other culture is usually very proud. It's not only Muslim, Southeast Asian, like African culture. Every other culture is
Yes.
proud to have their culture, and
Mm,
I do think Americans are more accepting, but it
yeah.
has to be the history too. So, going back
Mm,
to 911, I'm going to share that I was in a university, and
right.
it was not my what do I say? Not my department. So it
Okay.
was all Americans and all white Americans,
Hmm.
and it happened like that. The news came in the morning at nine
Yes.
thirty, and then soon it was like Muslims, and I felt like I just want to bury myself in the ground. I
Oh,
felt so embarrassed, and I just like,
yeah,
I didn't know like what to say, what to do, but it was like, oh my gosh, now what they have done now, and this is
yeah,
something really big. And it was a very confusing time for Muslims. They were asking me all sorts of questions. The number
yeah.
one question was that, do Muslims hate America, and especially Pakistan? Do
Right.
Pakistanis hate Americans? And I
Mm.
told them, no, it's not hate.
Yes.
And they don't know the history. Like we have to, like where all this is coming from too. So I just don't want to, because you have to be very careful with what you say. So
Sure.
yeah, so but I did assure them that we are as annoyed and bothered by these
Yes.
groups as you are. We
Yeah.
are also victim. They have hijacked our religion and doing
That's
all
it.
these things in the name of our religion. How would
Yes.
we feel? And that's when that words came also, that Islam is the religion of peace.
Yes.
Also that if you kill not even one life, yeah, if you
One
kill
life.
one life,
Yeah.
it means you kill all humanity.
That's it.
So these are the verses from Quran, and they became very popular because what Muslims did during that time,
Yes.
we educated, we
Yeah.
we like everyone took it as a personal responsibility that we have to
Yeah.
educate Americans.
Mm.
So we educated everyone, and then these Muslim organizations like CARE and
Yes.
MPAC, they become more active,
Yeah.
more visible, more verbal.
Yeah.
And Muslims understood that we have to do there was a lot of interfaith dialogue, but it
Yes.
happened slightly later. But we were given a platform too. Like I think Americans definitely did a great job not to shun us out. They
Sure.
still tried to understand our perspective,
Yeah.
and we explained. So it was fear, hate. There was a lot of it in the
Yeah.
beginning. Of course, people from either side, because there are some very
Yes.
extremist groups here too. But majority, like for me also, I haven't faced that much of racism. I've always faced, there is micro racism going on everywhere.
Of course.
But I've always felt accepted. But during that time, it was difficult. Like your identity get confused. I
Yes.
am American. I'm living here the most of my life, and my loyalties are with America. But I'm Muslim too. So, but
Sure.
Muslims didn't choose one or the other. They just
No.
were like, no, we are
Yes.
both, and this is what we stand
Yeah.
for. We are not them. So, and it worked. We emerged post 9/11 more stronger,
Yeah.
and I think it worked out in a good way. But again, we have to go back to how we migrated, how
Yes.
the migration happened. But you can tell me how it happened in UK.
After
Mhm.
the
9/11.
climate after
Yeah.
9/11, sure.
Mhm.
I remember where I was when it happened. This was when I used to work for my local community in local government. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and but one of our
Well, someone
managers.
actually said not many Christians in the UK is a myth and nonsense. Is it true?
Okay. Well, I don't have statistics, and I did say that things are changing now. There is a transition going on.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
But still, over the years, churches have closed down, and and they've been used for something else. And people are talking about going back to church, about becoming more religious, and
Mhm.
about
Yeah. You mentioned
reviving the
that.
Christian tradition.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to say, personally, I don't have a problem with that, not at all. I
Yeah.
would say
No,
that,
I think like religion is so important,
yeah,
and I don't even want to worry about if it's right or wrong. Like how atheists are
yeah,
always saying it's right or it's wrong. It
no,
just see what it provide us with.
yes, yes,
Community alignment,
yeah,
thinking someone is there for you.
that's
So
it.
yeah, the thing is that we just cannot, everyone should be free to follow their religion without interfering or
Yes,
looking others down. That's a
yeah,
very, very important part. And it
yeah,
can only happen with interfaith dialogues. So
yes.
in America, a lot of time, our Jewish center, they
Oh, yes.
do like Ramadan iftars.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so we go there for iftars, and then
right,
in Muslim like mosque, we do interfaith iftar. So we
right,
invite like Jewish, Christian women. It's usually women interfaith
right.
iftar, and we invite them. We share our culture. It's a very really really nice
That's
gathering.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's
So
lovely. That's lovely
interfaith
here.
dialogues are so important, and
It
these
is.
things like we have to, and this is called integration. I think what UK people are really afraid of is
Yes.
that they think they are going to, UK Muslims, they're going to lose their identity if they
Yeah.
integrate
Yes.
in the mainstream culture. But that's like, you, no one is asking you to erase your
That's it.
identity, and they can see it from US Muslims,
Yes. And
right?
here is the thing. I agree 100%. And sometimes I think what many Muslims miss is that,
Someone mentioned, I'm in South London. Many women wear niqabs,
yes,
multicultural South London.
yeah, which is interesting. And that doesn't surprise me as such. Yeah. But going on to this issue of identity and faith,
Hmm.
the essence, tend to forget that the essence of Western culture is that you are allowed to practice any faith you want.
Hmm.
Yes, you may be in a country which has a culture which is founded on Christianity.
And someone, sorry, just said, and
Sure.
I do agree with this comment, Lee
Hmm.
Anzo, fastest growing Islamic faction in the UK is Salafism.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what I see too.
which is disturbing. Yeah.
Very, very disturbing.
And that's it. And I don't know
Exactly. That's like
why.
they pointed it, because if you are in West, why you are wearing clothing from Saudi Arabia?
That's it.
Like
That's it.
what's the, you have to buy clothes, invest, and make it
Yes.
work for your culture plus your religion. It can
Yes.
happen. So that's what I've seen, why Muslims here are integrated, is because they are not wearing clothing from Saudi Arabia. They are
Yes.
wearing clothing, they buy
Yeah.
clothes here that work for what Islam has told us. And
That's
the
it.
thing is that Muslims here are very modest, like you said, how the modesty you follow, the
Yeah.
modesty standards, that's what Muslims follow here too. They will
Sure.
not show their legs, they are not going, most of them wear full sleeves.
Yes.
So they are really modest, and they will stay in touch with their cultures too. So you can
Yes.
be modest in any culture, and that's what Prophet Muhammad did. Whenever he migrated, he
Yeah.
did adopt the culture of that
Mm,
area. He
indeed.
didn't like isolate himself. Sorry, you go
No,
ahead.
that's okay. No, that's incredibly interesting
Mhm.
to know. But look, I'm a fan of Western culture simply because in the West
Mhm.
you're free. If we're talking about
Exactly.
religion, you can
Mhm.
follow any religion you wish, providing you don't impose it on others.
Mhm.
And I find it bewildering that many Muslims don't realize that. And
Mhm.
going back to maybe why this is the case in UK, maybe as that commentator said, maybe it is the influence of Salafism, because years ago
Mhm.
I did read something about well, Salafism, unless I'm wrong, comes, I believe, from Saudi Arabia.
Kind of, yeah. That's what I believe, but I don't know much detail. But I just
Sure.
remember whenever someone say that, Saudi Arabia came in my mind. But I don't
Yeah.
want to be against any place, but
No.
it's just the
No.
fact. Yeah.
Yes, but well, okay, let me then maybe put it this way, that there are, madrasas in the UK,
Mm.
organizations, and one of the,
Madrasas like Pakistan, India, exactly like that.
sorry, sorry,
What
what?
when you say madrasas, like, can you explain what are
Yes,
they?
definitely. As far as I'm aware, with an Indian stroke
Mhm.
Pakistani culture organized in that way
Because in
within.
Pakistan, madrasas only teach Quran. That's it.
Oh, okay. I'm not aware that. I think that's exactly how it is. But the reason why I bring this up, because we have to ask the question, who finances these places? Where do they get their money from? Now, I mentioned
And
madrasas.
someone says ban the burqa. What do you think about it?
Ban with the burqa, I'll be honest, I don't have a problem with that. Personally, I find it really difficult to relate to someone whose face is covered.
Niqab, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree, like niqab, but burqa is, I think,
Oh,
that overcoat that they are
okay.
wearing. Mhm.
That's okay, but I thought, oh, then we have to get our terminology right. Because if you're talking about the overcoat, isn't the name for that the abaya?
You're right, you're right. But
I saw
maybe burqa is like the full clothing. I don't know
that's
what.
what it is for me.
Okay.
But if it's just a case of that abaya, I have absolutely no issues with
Yeah.
it.
And
It's
one of
just a
the
long coat.
same like commenter, he is actually from UK,
Right.
and he's saying allegations of abuse in British Islamic schools,
Yeah.
and he's the one suggested ban the burqa and niqabs, face veils that reveal only their eyes. So for me, I just, nowhere in Quran it says like niqab is a must. Like niqab
Yes.
is more of a, and a lot of people say it's a very detailed discussion, and someone who really
Yeah.
know that, I want them to speak on like Sharia law and all of
Sure.
that.
Sure.
But I know fiqh that come from Sharia is
Right.
man-made.
Yeah.
It's not divine.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And
So,
also,
mhm.
yes, you're right, there is that. And then there is what we have in the Quran. And I remember someone once saying that I read sort of a book by a very interesting scholar, very liberal scholar, and he said that, well, what is in the Quran should be prioritized first. So
Mhm.
indeed, if the Quran sort of has these, simply tells the ladies, I can't remember the verse exactly, but there
Yeah.
is a verse that tells ladies to dress modestly, do not reveal your chest, for example.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what
Yeah,
I've done videos on it. I've done a lot of detail. Like I've really read it in detail, and I
sure.
know different scholars, but people get very sentimental when you mention that. So
They do.
for me, I think it's both ways. I think it's UK policies plus the Muslims that migrated there.
Yeah,
Cannot say it's only one-sided, because if you are not going to accept something, it's going to, like, that reactive identity formation happens.
yes,
So I
yeah,
like how US is very open to, you can, if something like in schools, my kids went to private schools, so
right.
and they have uniform. Usually there's no uniform in public school.
Okay,
So in private school you have to wear a specific uniform, but there were so many Muslims and they were allowed to wear hijab. But
all right.
Muslims, yeah, so they, it has
Interesting.
to be a specific color, but
Right.
they can wear hijab, and then they used to, they can wear skirt, or they can
Yeah,
wear tights underneath, because Muslim girls don't wear skirt, or they
yes,
can wear pants. So it's
right.
up to them. And there
I,
were full sleeves they can wear, and that's what kids wore. No one insisted that they have to wear the full burqa,
yeah,
and that's the Islamic clothing. So I think it's both ways. Muslims have to be more flexible, plus
yes,
the government has to be a little more accepting, and they cannot
exactly.
shun an
Yeah.
entire group out.
Well, I can be very clear about this. In the UK, no
Mhm.
one has an issue with the hijab.
Mhm.
The problem is, the hiding your face. That's the
Yeah,
issue.
yeah,
And apart from the arguments about things like security, there
yeah.
is a basic cultural issue that many Brits talk about. They say that, well, in our culture, when we communicate, we want to see the face of
Mhm.
of our partner, the person we're communicating with. Eye to eye contact is very important.
Yeah, and I'll say, I'll add my psychology too. So
Sure.
it's so important part of communication, your body and facial language, and
Yes,
the cues you are giving facially,
indeed.
and eye contact. It's a very, very big, like words are only, I think, 20% of communication,
Right.
and the
Yes.
person's body language is the rest.
That's it, and that's so interesting what you
Yeah.
said, and really this is the main issue that people are having. Then, of course, there is the second argument about oppression of women. The question that people ask is
And
how
one of the
many.
actually
Sure.
commenters, viewers have commented that it's strict gender roles too, and that's what I do see in UK.
Yeah.
Like strict, because one you mentioned that a YouTuber was a Muslim mom, right?
Yes, a
Yeah.
Muslim mom. Yes.
Yeah, so she was, I just saw one of her reel and I was like, I was holding
Oh,
my head.
oh
It,
dear.
she made, and very, no one supported her in that reel,
Right.
thank God. She was
Yeah.
talking about how polygamy, we have to accept it. It's
No.
Islamic. If your husband wants to marry 4 wives, if
Yeah.
we have to accept it, Allah will give us sabr.
Yeah, no. On that issue, I must check that out, and I will leave this comment on her video that basically polygamy was introduced at a time when women didn't have social support and men used to die in war. So at that time,
Mhm.
providing there were strict conditions, it made sense. But in the modern world, it absolutely does not make sense.
Not at
Women,
all. Not
no, no,
at all.
women are more than capable of looking after themselves.
Mhm.
And also, even if they're not, there are social networks in every country to help, vulnerable widows, if that is
Yeah.
their
And someone
circumstance.
mentioned Muslim women suffer from rickets because the sunlight doesn't go to their bodies. So let's
Yes,
talk more about medically, like
of
medical
course.
harms of niqab.
Yeah. And
So
that makes
sunlight,
sense.
not getting sunlight. Plus,
Yeah.
I've made this video, and some people, I'm supposed surprised, people supported me. Is that all our senses are on the face?
Yes,
Hearing, smelling, our eyes,
that's it.
speaking, and you are just like covering the senses that Allah has given you to enjoy this life, to communicate with
Yeah.
others. Does it make sense? Like if you use any logic, it why would Allah want that for one gender?
That's it. That's it. That really doesn't make sense. And
Not
also,
at all.
and if we're talking about the medical, the health aspect,
Hmm.
also I'd like to bring in the mental health issue.
Hmm.
I don't know if I were sort of wearing the full face veil,
Hmm.
it wouldn't be good for my mental health.
Hmm.
That I would know for sure. I would feel
I
self-conscious.
actually tried wearing veil
Oh,
full.
did you?
Yeah,
Wow.
in Saudi Arabia. So I made a video on it too. And
Right,
it was just as an experiment, and I got inspired. Everyone was wearing it. You just like,
right.
okay, let's try to wear it. It's like a
Sure.
very holy place, and I'll try to wear it. But I couldn't even wear it for an hour
That's interesting. There you go. And
because
that's,
it made me feel like so confined. And I have like
yes.
a term called agoraphobia, when you get panicky and you have anxiety in small spaces,
Yeah,
crowded spaces like
yeah,
elevators, when there are
yeah.
too many people. So I literally started like having that panic
Oh,
and
good Lord.
agoraphobia. It was so constructive, and not to
Yeah,
mention so hot.
yes.
So mhm.
That's just it. And that's why I can't understand anyone who would want to wear it. And forget the West. This morning, I was reflecting prior to our chat.
Mhm.
And I remembered when I lived in India for those few years, barely any Muslim woman wore and forget a full face veil. They didn't even wear a hijab.
Yeah.
They really didn't. They dressed like any other Indian woman,
Yeah.
sari or a
Mhm.
shalwar kameez,
Mhm.
and that was good enough. If they were a little bit devout, they would walk around with a dupatta on their head, and that was considered fine. The only places in India where you might see women wearing a burqa would be in the villages or the small towns. And even in those
Yeah.
places, not many. There is a town near Mumbai that's called Bhiwandi.
Mm-hmm.
It is a Muslim majority town,
Yeah.
and I used to have relatives living there. So when I
Mm-hmm.
was a kid, I used to
Yeah.
go there to see cousins, and I remember as a child only in that town seeing women with full face veils, and not every woman. Maybe
Yeah.
you would just see a little group here and there. And so going back to the to
And I
sort of
want to
the,
just share my. I grew up in Pakistan,
all
so
right,
yeah. So in Pakistan, maybe in my mom's time, when like
right,
it was long time ago, some people wear burqa, but in my time there was no burqa.
yeah,
There was there was some hijab, but nothing like this. It was not
that's it,
hijab for Muslims. If I have my,
sure,
I'll show you how
yeah,
we wear it. So this is like our dupatta. This is
yeah,
for my prayer. So
of
this is
course,
what we'll wear,
oh yeah,
like this. And
yeah,
it was not even part of school uniforms.
no,
In school,
no,
we didn't wear it. No, it was
yeah,
not part of like anything. And very few women covered their head. I
that's
am from Karachi, so it was
true,
pretty modern. And we just wore like loose, our cultural clothing, shalwar
yeah,
kameez, and then
yeah,
our dupatta was on the side.
right,
That's how we, no
and
niqab.
that's
I don't think I've seen any niqabs
That's,
there.
but it's interesting you said that your roots lie in Karachi. Now, years ago when I was at university, I had some very lovely Pakistani friends who would come to the university to study.
Mhm.
This is where they came from, the wonderful city of Peshawar.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm just wondering because it said,
Peshawar is different. It's close to
uh,
Afghanistan, and
yeah,
they are very different people. So I'm pretty sure in Peshawar it's more burqa.
they're yeah,
Yeah, very
conservative
but it's
as
more
well.
culture. That's what I'm saying. It's not
Yeah,
religion, it's culture.
sure.
So yeah, why are you, when you are going to a different country for West, like how you said that, I love this about West too. When I
Yeah.
came here, like how I can talk about things in
Yes.
Pakistan, I wasn't able to talk about a lot of things. And then
Yeah.
there, women face so much harassment. And I made
Ah,
one of this video, and
sure.
I'm pretty sure India is the same way.
Yes.
The harassment, I went to medical school in Pakistan.
Right.
The harassment girls face over there, with no, like we cannot do much about it because we are,
And this is with so-called educated men.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
that's shocking.
like from doctors,
Oh,
not
good Lord.
students, but like when you
Yes.
start doing I move right afterwards, but my sister ended up doing residency there. So
Right.
in residency, the harassment she received from
Oh, no.
attending physicians
Right. Oh,
was
terrible.
insane. And like she couldn't do much about it. She had
Okay.
to like switch departments. So I love how we have like a check and balance system here,
Yes.
and human resource department, and there's
Yeah.
absolutely no harassment. And a lot of
No.
Americans say that there is harassment, but compared to Pakistan, oh, and
Yeah.
how you were stared at,
Oh, yes.
oh my gosh, from top to bottom, men are just staring at you.
Yes.
And here,
And you know,
nothing.
and imagine being I've just had a thought. Imagine being a Western woman on the subcontinent then.
Hmm.
One of my relatives is married to an English woman who has wonderful blonde hair, and
Okay.
she went with her husband and her sister-in-law to Delhi a few years ago, and
Hmm.
this is what was horrifying, that she was actually harassed in the presence of her husband and her sister-in-law.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, okay, oh good Lord,
That's like
um,
insane. Yeah, no, but there are places like that in
yeah,
Karachi where if you go, no matter what you're wearing,
yes.
if you go alone, it's just, it feels like they are going to R-word you from their eyes.
Yeah, no, I get you. I understand.
Yeah.
Maybe in terms of why, I think that when it comes to male-female relations, maybe the subcontinent still needs to make progress.
Hmm.
In my life in the West, I've had lots of male friends, platonic male friends.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say that I get on with males better than with females. Now, I remember on one of my last visits to India, having a long walk with one of my favorite aunts. And I was telling her about my social life in Germany and how in my social circles, one of my friends is a very nice American male whom I'm close to. And she was interested. But you know what she said? She said, Samira, I'm not sure if men in India would be this understanding, in the sense, if a woman is telling them that it's friendship, nothing more, nothing less. She said that she would be doubtful if an Indian male would actually accept that. They would
Yeah.
assume that if you're showing that friendship towards them, that you're ready for some sort of physical relationship with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
no, I completely agree, because they are in Pakistan. The thing is that they don't have much exposure to women, but things are
right,
changing. I'm pretty sure.
yes,
And the culture where a woman have to be silenced, she has to sacrifice her life.
yeah,
All that was so prevalent. Me
yeah.
growing up, but now it's changing. I see it in dramas. Girls are,
That's interesting to
yeah,
know.
with education, girls are
Yeah,
saying no. They are
yeah,
like, they are leaving after engagement, so they're saying no to marriages. Before it was like, you get so much pressure from your family,
yes,
you can't even say
yeah.
no if you don't want to. So
No,
that's
no,
horrible, and it's completely against Islam. A woman's consent is so important.
oh, of course, of
So
course.
that's why it's so important to have these conversations,
Yes,
so people understand that what a real Islam is, and it's
indeed.
not. There's some cultural aspect
Yes,
of Islam. So you mentioned you have a question. Do we need reform?
yes, I would love to know your opinion,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
this has been a topic,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, so I have a little more traditional approach to it, because I
Right,
I do feel that Islam is like a divine command, and it's for our guidance.
yes,
So I'm against reforming Islam, how
right,
they've done to other religions,
okay,
but I do. There's like how I said, fiqh came
yes.
from Sharia are the rules. It's called Sharia law, but it's actually fiqh.
Okay, 'cause I think jurisprudence in English,
Yes,
but
yes,
yes,
jurisprudence. So that's man-made, and that was
yeah,
made for cultural reasons, to get
yeah,
control, to get dominance. That's very man-made.
yes,
So I want to go back to the roots of Islam, like as a Muslim, and that's
yeah,
what I practice too.
yeah,
So jurisprudence and women clothing is part of jurisprudence, I believe, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it
So
is, yes,
exactly. And people think that is a divine command,
yeah,
but you have to go back to Quran, and you have to go back to Sunnah too. A lot of people completely reject Sunnah, and I
yeah,
don't want to. But we have a big problem with hadiths, because we all know, all Muslims know that
yes,
all of them are not authentic. We just
that's
don't
it,
say it. So,
that's it,
but we cannot reject all hadiths, because they spend so much time and energy collecting it, and it gives
sure,
us a version of Prophet Muhammad's life.
yeah,
So I don't think Islam need to be reformed, but yeah, jurisprudence, yeah, definitely.
yes,
But I'm not that political, so
yeah.
don't have that much
From my side,
knowledge.
from my side, when I think of reforming Islam, I'm not suggesting that it should take the same path that Christianity took.
Okay.
Interestingly, Dresden is not far away from the city of Martin Luther, who was the architect of the Christian reform, and
Okay.
that's how that led to Protestantism. I'm not suggesting that. In fact, this is. I would suggest a look at law, again, Islamic law, fiqh, and as you said, and just look at what can be adapted to
Yeah, I'm just,
current
it's a
times.
very good question. What do you think is the driving force among some Pakistani men for mistreating or harassing women? That's a very good question.
That's in. How would you answer that?
There's a lot of reasons.
Yeah,
Biggest reason is there's no check and balance.
yeah,
So when you give someone full control power, and full control to dominate, they are going
Yes.
to do it. There has to be check and balance, and that's what I see it in a democratic country. It's really important.
Yeah.
Pakistan say they have democracy, but I really, there's so much corruption
Sure.
there. Yeah, so there has to be check and balance at very strict
Yes.
laws. Like UAE is a Muslim country, and they have such strict laws.
Oh,
No
wow.
one can stare at someone. Even if you
Okay.
stare at someone, you get fined. If a
That's
girl complained that a
interesting.
man was staring at her, so
Right.
there
Oh,
should be very strict laws,
yeah.
and they have to be followed out. Otherwise, men are going to dominate and control because
That's
that's in their
it.
nature.
Yes, I
Mhm.
suppose, yeah, and yes, there and someone in those societies has to take the initiative. I'll say something positive about India.
Mhm.
In 2012, there was this rape case in New Delhi that made world headlines. This
Mm.
young girl was raped on a bus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was
Unfortunately, she
horrible. Yeah.
died. That
Mhm.
indeed.
Yeah.
After that incident, in India's legal system actually transformed a lot of its laws. Basically, they did things like making it easier to persecute rapists. They
Mm.
introduced initiatives so that, these men can be charged a lot quicker, sentenced quicker. And also, there were efforts to remove social stigma from
Okay.
rape, which I think was really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, no, I agree. They're very good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, there have to be these initiatives to improve the social status of women in our respective
Yeah,
cultures.
education, less gender
Yes,
roles, strict gender roles, more like gender. There are gender roles in Islam, but it's not
yes,
that they shouldn't be used to like silence women, stop women for moving forward. Like how they
yes.
are doing in Afghanistan, it has
Oh,
nothing to
God.
do with Islam. It's
Yeah.
horrible. It's
Oh,
absolutely, it's
God.
women's
Yeah.
right violation. It's absolutely horrible, and some people support it. And I
Yes.
just came to find out that in Sharia law, like you can marry a child.
I know. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Mhm.
didn't Iraq introduce this law last year that a 9-year-old girl is now considered suitable for marriage?
Yeah, they are
Oh,
just,
God,
it's horrible. But I don't
horrified.
think in Pakistan there's a set age of marriage. I still think
Right.
Pakistan is a feminist country, which I
Yeah.
do like, because a lot of women are getting education. And the thing is that a lot of Pakistani men are really, really nice and very
Yeah.
protective and respectful of women. But
Sure.
there are some that
Of
just
course.
completely like they spoil it for
Yeah.
everyone, because they
Yeah.
are so, like, some bad apples are so bad
Of
that they
course.
spoil it for everyone. Because if a water is clean but you put like one spot of
I know.
darkness, the whole water will get dark.
I know. It's absolutely horrible.
Hmm.
And again, it's nice to borrow a Lubna's phrase. Those few bad apples, as she always keeps
Oh,
saying.
really?
Yes, she
Maybe I
doesn't
should
stick.
ask Lubna to join me one time.
Oh, you must. You must. I
Yeah,
highly
I really want to,
recommend that.
because the thing is that I've never joined her. I don't know that much about her
Sure.
content.
Yes. Well, I would basically say maybe I know she's privatized a lot of the old videos, but this week she's been live every single day.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, I'm going to send her an invitation if she wants to come to my channel. I think
oh,
that will be good. Definitely will be good.
sure. And that's but the point that she makes about the bad apples. That's just it. And also, if we talk about Muslims. Us people like us, the average Muslims, were just living our lives, contributing to society. I
Okay,
do
yeah.
believe that we do have a certain duty to call out the bad apples, which is
Yeah, we do. I just started doing it. So one theme in Muslim communities that you cannot call out anything, because then
Yes,
everyone will know what's going on. So you just keep it hidden under the
that's it.
rocks. And Southeast Asian Pakistani community, it's big. But if we don't speak up about it, how are we going to solve it?
Yes, that's
It's so
just it.
important. Yeah. And
That
living in America has made me some little bit American. And that's what Americans do. They are just so loud about their problems, and that's
yes,
how they do solve it. It's important we
yes,
speak up about our problems.
they
It
do.
doesn't make us a less of a Muslim, less of
No,
like less loyalty towards our
yes.
culture. It just make us more sincere.
Yes, and you know
Mhm.
what sort of I'm just looking at your title of the live stream, and you talked about solutions, or you've raised the word solutions, and maybe a solution to these issues is introducing the value of personal freedom in our societies. You know, as my dad used to say years ago, that in Eastern cultures, you know, you're not in a if you're in a community, the community is more important than the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that if you're
That's how
part
it
of
is. That's how
yeah,
it
if you're
is.
part of a
Mhm.
community, you have to follow certain norms, abide by certain values.
Mhm.
And he said, well, in the West, that's not the case. In the West, you know, you can basically live your life the way you want. Now, there are pros and cons to both approaches. I accept that.
Mhm.
But maybe the time has come that in our cultures, the idea that that the individual is the most important unit in society,
Mhm.
and and that an individual should be free to live his or her life in any way they want. Maybe
Yeah, talk about Desi community. There's no individualism because we are
that's
judged.
it.
So, like Muslim communities judge each other so
Yeah,
harshly,
oh,
and
I
then
know.
on top of that, you are Pakistani or Indian. You're just like judged so
I
harshly.
know.
So,
Speaking of judging, I have a little story to share.
mhm.
When I was living in Wembley many, many years ago, my mom, when she was still active, was part of a Quran reading circle with the
Okay.
local Muslim ladies in the
Yeah.
area. And if for many years she would go and she would read the Quran with a group of ladies. But
Mhm.
then over the years, the daughters in that circle, they grew up and they started joining the sort of the Quran reading.
Mhm.
And those girls realized that my mother had a daughter and they wanted to rope me in. So I remember two or three of them, they came over to the family house and
Mhm.
they introduced themselves. But of course, now I was dressed as a normal 18, 19-year
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
at the time. I wasn't wearing anything outrageous, I promise. But after basic introduction, those girls started looking at me like this. You know, they were eyeing me up from the top of my head to right to my feet,
Oh,
and there was a look of, how can I describe it? A look of
disgust. Disgust.
disgust, disgust. Let's use the word
I've seen
disgust.
that look so many times. The look
Oh,
of
I
disgust
know.
from aunties.
Exactly. And I thought when I saw that, I would forgive the aunties for doing it. I would not wouldn't enjoy it. I would forgive them. But these were young
Mhm.
women of my age.
Oh, that's horrible. I thought she was older.
No, no, these were the daughters
Oh my,
who wanted
that's
to,
really horrible.
yeah, who wanted to organize their own Quran reading circle. And I thought, no, I'm going to have nothing to do with them. But then they didn't stop. And then someone else, another young woman from that group, called
Mhm.
me. And she said, come, we look at the works of various scholars. And
Yeah.
I said, oh, who do you read? And one name she mentioned was Sayyid Qutb. Now, I don't know if you know, but Sayyid Qutb was an Egyptian Islamic scholar who
Oh.
basically wrote a book called Milestones, in which he advocated for all Muslim countries to reject anything Western and to go back to pure Islam. Basically said that the Muslim world is in disarray, so reject anything Western, go back to pure Islam. And now the problem is that this book was the Bible for many of the founders of Al Qaeda.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see
yeah,
that.
and I knew that the moment
Yeah,
she said that, and I thought,
yeah.
no,
But
and I
that's how
basically,
we'll go backward and we'll
yes,
isolate ourselves. We have
yeah,
to we have to integrate in society. That is very
oh
important.
yes,
Not
and
assimilate. Assimilation will erase it. They are
yes,
just worried about erasure. They think like
that's
Islam
it,
will just
yeah,
erase in our future generations. That's why they practice it so
yeah,
over the top, more than their original countries. And I completely agree. There are some people who will just put West down all day
yes,
long and live
yeah,
in West.
I
Your
know,
loyalty should be with the country you are living in.
that's,
That's what, like, even our religion teaches. Our loyalty
of
should be
course,
with
of
our
course,
with the country we are living in.
yeah,
That's the politics. You should be involved. So here there's I want to share more about Canadian Muslim a
oh
little.
yes,
So Canadian Muslim are really very similar to American, but they are more
mhm,
traditional in their values. You'll see
okay,
more hijab there, but again, integrated in society and minding their business and
sure,
not, yeah, not like nothing like UK.
yeah,
Because UK is just, I agree. You see Salafism.
yes,
More, yeah, that's what I see, and it should, like, why are they bringing it to West? That's why we came
I
here.
know. I
Yeah.
know that's just it.
Mhm.
And it's interesting. Maybe let me ask a question about Canada.
Mhm.
In which city in Canada is there a large Muslim population?
The largest, and they are, and I'll tell you why it is different.
Yeah,
So I go to Toronto a lot. My family lives there, and
right.
Mississauga is somewhere where there is a big Muslim population,
Yes.
and I think Brampton is where you see a lot of Indian Sikh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's very multicultural. And
Sure.
now Mississauga is expanding. My sister lives closer to Mississauga, and they have,
Right.
it's just beautiful. The Muslim culture you see there, it's
I
so
see.
beautiful. You see real Muslim culture, but I don't live there, so I can't speak that
Right.
much about it. But
Sure.
yeah, there are a lot of Muslims there. I think what the difference between UK and US and Canada is that the way migration happened, I
Yes.
believe, like, it happened post in UK, post colonialism, and
Exactly.
where it was more education and career based.
Yeah.
Everyone came either for further education or
Yes.
for their career.
Yeah.
And then so the cream of Pakistan came, cream of Pakistan and India,
That's just it.
and
Um,
that
and
they are
yeah.
representing Pakistan and India and a lot of people, and even Middle East or
Yeah.
Other Muslim countries. And people look up to Pakistanis here. When I tell
Yeah.
someone I'm Pakistani, it's like a pride. It
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
like that before. But
Right.
the
Right.
way Muslims, because Pakistanis have the way they migrated, they are doing very well here. They are
That's
doing very, very
excellent.
well. So now it has become a pride because we are on a very higher level. We are
Yeah.
doing better than, I think, Americans. Indians definitely is the highest
Of course.
socioeconomic group.
Yeah.
So if you tell someone you're Indian, they'll think you are super rich.
Yeah. I can believe that.
Mhm.
In UK, but yes, the Indians are doing very, very well indeed. But then again, each community. I'm not an expert, I have to say, on the Pakistani community
Mhm.
in the UK. But when I was at university, I
Mhm.
saw many students from a Pakistani background in education. So
Yeah.
I think I can infer from that, that these people went on to contribute to a British society
Yeah.
in a very positive way. So so they do exist. But speaking, something that I wanted to share is also my experience as a student. Now, when I was at university, by the way, I'm going to move a little bit because I need to plug in
Okay.
my
Yeah,
iPad.
and we should, it's getting really long, so maybe like in 5-10 minutes we should end our live too.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Then basically, I'll keep this short.
Mhm.
There we are. Yeah, so yeah, I was at university. Now, at British universities, there are a lot of uh, societies, clubs and societies,
Mhm.
including religious societies. So
Mhm.
every university has an Islamic society.
Mm.
So I went to two Islamic societies, one when I was doing my BA and another one when I was actually doing my PhD. Now,
Mhm.
in these societies, the students were mainly from a South Asian background.
Mhm.
And in one society, many of the women had their head covered. But what's important is, and I didn't like this, a message of separatism was
Mm.
preached, that
Mhm.
the idea, the message that was given to us young students is that we're Muslims, we're better than the wider
Oh,
British
yes. I'm
world.
so glad you are picking. Oh my gosh, this is
And
really
this
true.
is,
I just don't like this Muslim mindset, and
yeah,
I'm very against it that we are better. We are the
yeah,
only one who will go to heaven. You'll
yeah,
go to hell. And even among Muslims, someone who's wearing hijab, she
yes,
is a better Muslim. Automatically, she is a better Muslim.
yeah,
So the way it is, look, it's like a privilege. So
yes,
it's kind of a conditioning too. This is called social conditioning. If
yeah,
you are wearing hijab or even
yeah,
burqa or even niqab, you are a better Muslim. So
yeah,
you are praised, you are liked, you get validated, you get a
yes.
status. So
Yeah,
they
and this is
condition
what
it.
I saw
Mhm.
at university at that time, and and I didn't enjoy this. And maybe I'll end with one small little anecdote as well. At the time when I was doing my PhD and when I was hanging out with people from the Islamic Society, I remember there was a guy. I can't remember now whether his heritage was Pakistani or Indian, but he was definitely South Asian. But the key
Mhm.
thing was that I remember he became friends with a guy from the Middle East who was a Druze. The Druze sect, okay, and
What
I've met
sect?
Druze, Druze.
Oh, I
They
don't even know that
Oh
sect.
gosh, I'm not an expert. They're not
Mhm.
Muslims, but they are a sect in the Middle East, in Lebanon,
Mm.
I believe. But in any case, this was a very good-looking man, popular with the ladies. Anyway, he
Mhm.
started hanging out with this Pakistani guy, whom I also knew.
Mm.
They became friends, and through this friendship, this Druze guy showed interest in Islam, and he converted to Islam. Now, okay, this was, he converted. Now, fast forward a year later, I bump into this Pakistani guy and I say, hey,
Mhm.
long time no see. How are
Yeah.
you? And how is your mate, your best mate, this Druze
Yeah.
guy? And he said, well, he left Islam and we're no longer friends.
Oh,
And
wow.
and
Mhm.
now I didn't ask for details, and I
Mhm.
appreciate that there are two sides to a story.
Mhm. Yeah.
But at that time, I was uncomfortable again, thinking, well, he was a young man.
Yeah.
If he decided Islam was not for him, he's
Mm.
entitled to change his mind,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that shouldn't affect the friendship.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely not. And that's why it is so important. Like we need to speak up, a more balanced voices,
Yes,
and speaking about real Islam with
yes,
sincerity and not letting these loud voices
that's
take
it.
over from either side. I get so many. Whenever I make a video on Lubna, I think I've made two.
Too, yeah,
And then I've also made a video on ex-Muslim. So whenever I
yes.
make those videos, I get so many anti-Islamic people,
Oh,
like
right.
totally hating Islam. And
Yeah,
then I get, whenever I make videos on Muslims and how real Islam is, I get the other side, those Muslims,
Yes.
very loud voices. Where's your hijab, sister? And please take
Yeah.
this video down, and like
That's
putting me,
ridiculous.
shaming me, and
I know.
belittling me. So that culture is very common in Muslim community.
It
Like,
is.
you cannot speak about Islam if you are not covered from head to toe. And
Yeah.
I
And
feel I'm modest from Western standards. I'm very
yes.
modest.
Oh,
And
yes.
like hijab is more of a personal journey.
It
So
is.
I'm not never against hijab. I think it's very sacred, but
Yeah.
you don't have a right to tell me I cannot speak up about Islam if I'm not wearing hijab. And that's like,
Yes.
you don't owe, you are not entitled. People are
No.
so entitled. They think they own the whole deen and no one else
Yeah.
can speak about it.
Especially the
So,
men.
oh
Especially the
yeah,
men.
men, and sometimes they are women too, and they're even louder. But it's
Yeah.
again internalized misogyny,
That's
um,
just it.
the
That's just,
conditioning. Like when they speak, when they are that good girl,
yes.
yeah. So they get
I know,
validated and
which
praised.
is ridiculous as well.
Mhm.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure having
Yeah, no,
this
it is
discussion.
really very interesting, and I think I learned so much. So we will
Likewise,
continue and
of course.
do share if you recommend any other guests that I should be inviting. This was my first ever
I
live.
will,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I would like to also maybe recommend one or two of my favorite books, and I'll send
Yes.
you a private message a little bit
Okay.
later.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you
definitely
so
do
much.
that then.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Thank you so much,
You're very
Samira.
welcome. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you everyone who joined, and we will continue this journey. This was my first ever live, and I'm going to perform more lives at least once a week. I'm a psychiatrist here, so I am a very practicing and active doctor, and I just don't have that much time to stay online as much as I want to. But please share your comments and everything, and I will try to reply to all of them. Thank you all. Bye.